Shooter from the belt to the plate. A swing and a miss, and that's the winner. That's the winner. A World Series winner for the Cardinals. Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. It's a home run, and the Cardinals have won the game by the score of 3-2 on a home run by the Wizard. Go crazy. Swinging a long one into left field. Adios, goodbye, and maybe that's the winner. A 3-run homer by Clark, and the Cardinals lead by the score of 7-5, and they may go to the World Series on that one, folks.
What a team. What a ride. The Cardinals are world champs in 2011.
Welcome to That's the Winner podcast. I am Ryan Jenkins, and with me is Josh Brown and Kyle Peach. Let's get right into it, boys, and talk about the 7-game winning streak. I think since the last time we were on air was the trade deadline the night before, or the night of after, right? And since then, the Cardinals have rattled off 7 wins, sweeping the Cubs in a doubleheader and sweeping that, and then sweeping the Yankees for the first time ever in St. Louis Cardinals history. So let's get right into it. What were your biggest takeaways? We can talk about the weekend or just the 7-game stretch in general. Josh?
Yeah, I mean, another 7-game winning streak that I got to be at live. The last time I was at one last year was that Padres game that O'Neill had the big home run in the 8th inning, and that wound up being a sweep for us as well. Wild game yesterday, man. Longest game at Busch Stadium history, and it felt like it. Believe me, I was there. It was hot. You got a little pocket of rain in a couple innings, which was actually kind of nice because it was so hot. But man, it was a long game, and it was a good one. I mean, as soon as the Yankees went up 4-1, I'm like, it might be one of those days because Wainwright, he just didn't have it. The umpire was not helping him at all, which we can talk about that a little bit. That was one of the worst called games ever this year that I've seen on the MLB scorecard Twitter account. Actually in our favor, which is right. I'll take it. But there was
I was shocked it was that swayed.
Yeah, but there was some big moments both ways. It was awful, but man, just a fun game. We never win slugfest like that. I can't even remember the last time that we won a game like that. But to sweep the Yankees on the weekend, I mean, that's a highlight from the week, right? I mean, we wanted to see that with the Cubs. We were hoping to see it. Double headers are hard to sweep.
Right.
They managed it and just got on a roll against the Yankees. And look, you're going to have people say, well, they didn't have Stanton. They didn't have Anthony Rizzo. You didn't have to face Garrett Cole. Yes, like I will concede. Obviously, those are big parts of their team. It helps out. Still the Yankees. They're still one of the best teams in baseball this year. They've still been winning a lot of games. So you're not gonna find too many complaints from me for the weekend. I mean, it was just a great weekend overall.
Yeah, I mean, can you you think about the Cardinals and the Yankees, the history of those two franchises. I saw there was 30% of all World Series winners ever were that part of that series. So 38 of 117, I think, total World Series. And I think if you look at how many they've been played in, there's 50 of the 117-ish World Series played were between those two franchises. And for the Cardinals to never have ever swept them and able to do so in very different ways, from a 1-0 to a 12-9, I think, or 12-8, whatever the other one was, all over the board. Do you think that you owe John Mozeliak an apology for his trade deadline?
Yeah, that was the topic today on a lot of the 101 ESPN radio. I heard some mic drops on that. Look, okay, I still think it's a little too early to call. We're only 11 innings in total to Quintana and Montgomery. First time around, though, they look great. And I know Quintana, they more so, I think they pulled him more out of just wanting to let him have a good start. He had given up the home run in the first inning, not much after that. Montgomery, we both were like, why is he out after 5 innings, 83 pitches? Came out later. He had, I think, leg cramps is what I saw. Something to do with the heat, which is
he was not used to that.
Yeah, which is understandable. But he looked great, shutting out his old team for 5 innings in a close ball game. So yeah, I mean, Wainwright said it. He said that one, you never like to lose a guy like Bader, obviously clubhouse favorite, good guy. But the pitchers that Mo went and got, and Marmol said this too. Marmol, he said it wasn't just going to get guys; it was going to get the right guys. And they think Quintana's a fit. Wainwright said he should have been a Cardinal years ago. He thought Montgomery's clearly a fit, and I mean that trade on the Yankees end, the national media, their fan base for sure has just been railing them for that trade
because they're upset.
Nobody he wasn't mentioned in trade trade talks at all. Nobody knew that he was even remotely available because he was their number 3.
Right. And then they got Montes, and then we beat him as well.
Yeah.
Kyle, what do you think, I don't know your take on the Soto deal part of it, to be honest, but, do you think that Cardinals Nation in general owes Mo an apology? Because I think there's a lot of upset fans that, Soto isn't a Cardinal, but it looks again that John Mozeliak has pushed the right buttons at this point to get the Cardinals where they need to be.
Well, I think it's like Josh said, I think it's too early. Yeah, it's a great start. Remember, Mike Schilt had a 17-game win streak at one point shortly after being named the skipper of this ball club. And then, honestly, toward the end, I couldn't get him out of there quick enough. So it's a great start. Will it continue? And I think the million-dollar question that remains to be answered is which Cardinals team is it going to be down the stretch that plays? Is it the 7-game win streak, sweep the Cubs, sweep the Yankees team, or is it going to be the team that struggles to beat the Pirates and the Reds? I think that's the million-dollar question. I think what we have answered is this team does have the talent to compete at that World Series, deep playoff run, caliber type of team. I think this team can be that. Will it be? Can it sustain that? And folks, we're now in a pennant chase. We're now in a division race that is going to go, I'm afraid, right down to the wire. And that last 2 weeks of the season could be something special.
So let's go back to that, I guess, a little bit. Do we think this is actually going to be a chase? The Cardinals have the easiest remaining schedule in all of baseball. The Brewers are like 14th most difficult. So, there's 30 teams. So right in the middle of the most difficult schedule or the easiest schedule, whichever way you want to look at it. And the Cardinals have the easiest the rest of the way. In honesty, the Cardinals should run away with it. Shouldn't they?
They should. And I'm just looking now here. Our next 23 games, only 6 of those 23 games are against teams with a winning record.
Right.
6. It should be one of the best Augusts in Cardinal history this month. With how we're playing right now, the teams are about to go up against. Now, look, we're going to Colorado. That's a wild card. Obviously, one of our starters, maybe more, are bound to get rocked in that park. But after what we saw our offense do yesterday, there's no reason we can't do it either, especially in Colorado. I think Nolan, Arenado's going to have a big series this time around. I know he didn't have a huge one his first time back there last year. The way he's playing right now is otherworldly, and we can get into his numbers later. But, yeah, the schedule, man, it favors us big time. You've got 3 at Rockies, 3 back at home against the Brewers is coming up weekend, which is going to be big in terms of what you said, Kyle, whether it goes down to the stretch or not, I think might determine this week and this weekend, those 3 games we have against them. But then you've got the Rockies again at home. You've got 3 at the Diamondbacks, 5 again at Chicago. I wish we'd get 5 at Busch Stadium.
Kidding.
But 5 at Chicago still, even with how the Cubs are playing. 3 against the Braves after that, and then we wrap up the month against the Reds at Cincinnati. So, look, this month is huge. I think this week is big, especially these 3 games against the Brewers. And they've got 3 against Tampa Bay starting tomorrow. And we saw earlier this season, Tampa Bay is no pushover over in that division. And the way they've been playing right now, they are reeling. If that bullpen can't get it together, they are really in trouble.
And Tampa is also kind of going the other direction kind of as well, and they need to win.
They have the same record as the Brewers right now.
Yeah, they need to get wins as well to stay in their chase. Could this series, could it have gone any better? When you look at it, Wainwright only pitched 4+, right? Montgomery only pitched 5+, I do believe. And then Quintana got 6.
I think he got through 6, yeah.
So I guess it could have gotten better because your starting pitcher still didn't go as deep as you may wanted. But could the weekend have gone any better than it did?
I don't think so. Cal, you speak to that. Because for me, right off the bat, Friday was Hudson. When we won that game, I was like, we for sure have a shot at winning the series.
Right.
But what do you think, Cal?
Well, I agree. I think it was a great. I don't think it could go much better. You won 7 games, so I don't think it could go any better. I get what your point is. The starters could go deeper. I do want to point out. We talk about the easy schedule, and yes, the Cardinals are set up to succeed, the best of any team in baseball down the stretch in terms of the schedule. But as you guys both know, the most maddening thing for me about Cardinal baseball through the last decade plus is we seem to rise to the occasion when we play teams like the Yankees, but when we play teams like the Pirates, the Reds, the Cubs, we just lose our mind and we play down to that level of competition. You talk about, I heard Josh go through that August schedule. A lot of those games are on the road. We're 25-28 on the road this season. We have a losing record on the road. So yeah, it sounds like it's easy. It's supposed to be the easiest, but this is a team that historically, I think, doesn't play well against teams that they should beat. And this year, we're not getting it done on the road. So I'm a little hold off on judgment about how good we've got it down the stretch here.
Well, yeah, you bring that up about playing up to the competition or playing down. Katie Wu today, a friend of the show, said that she felt the energy in the clubhouse for this series differently than she has all year, and she said it was reminded her of last year's 17-game win streak. She felt that difference. Now, I asked that in saying, is it because of Yadier Molina being back in the clubhouse? Because I don't know if you saw about Gallegos and what he said to Gallegos, and he said, throw the effing ball and get Judge out, and he took control of the situation. And I think if Kisner or Herrera or even Romine is back there, he's not telling Gallegos that, and I could see him giving up a home run to Aaron Judge, and we're talking about a different series. But how much of that has been because Yadi is back in the clubhouse, and what did that change? Because you can look at it as since the All-Star break, since the trade deadline, the Cardinals are undefeated. Cardinals are undefeated since Yadi has been back in the fold as well.
Yeah, he's been a huge part of that. Arenado said it just like you said. And he said, the pitchers are great that we got, but I think that Yadi being back has really helped step up the leadership. And that's what Yadi brings, because he's not doing it. He's just not doing it with the bat anymore. He's just not. I think he can get a clutch hit still every once in a while. I don't hate it when he's up with runners in scoring position, though more lately it feels like he's either going to maybe get a hit or hitting a double play, like the first or second pitch.
I always feel confident he's going to hit the ball. He's not going to strike out.
He's usually, he's going to put the ball in play, but
maybe on the first pitch. But
when he threw that first runner out in the first game of the Cubs series, that too. That brings a swagger, especially for your fielders, for the pitchers. Like, all right, I can bounce one in the dirt, and Yadi's going to get it. And that's huge for the pitching staff. And yes, what he said to Gallegos was huge, because we've seen that this year with Gallegos. He hasn't been the sharpest at times. He's blown some games. He's let some innings get away and things unravel. And Yadi was just like, nope, I'm not going to do that. And so I think he's been huge. But to Kyle's point earlier, last year, right? It was June. I think it was like the worst June in Cardinals history.
Yeah, it was
we
rough.
won 9 or 10 games. I was looking back on that. 13 of those losses that month, teams under 500, Reds, Indians, Cubs, Tigers. If you remember, we got swept 2 games by the Tigers that month. We almost got swept. We lost 3 or 4 to the Pirates toward the end of that month. So to your point, Kyle, yeah, that's been a thing these last couple of years, man. It's like we played down to the competition, and I don't understand it. I just don't get it. It's like Cubs. That's a different, right? It's a rivalry. Those games are usually close, no matter how bad they are. They're always fun. But that is maddening, and that has been a real thing the last year or two, especially last year. It was like we just played down to the competition. So that cannot happen the rest of this month if we want to take off like we saw them take off last September.
I think too, it goes to, looking back at how long the Cardinals have struggled against playing down to that level of competition. I think that may be in part why you don't have Mike Matheny or Mike Schilt as your manager anymore. You've got to have a manager that can motivate your players to beat the teams you got to beat, not just to get hyped up and amped up about the teams that you think are going to provide you a challenge. So that may be a Marmol question in his first year here down this stretch. Can he keep this team motivated? And, you talk about, did Mo succeed at the trade deadline? I think if nothing else, with all of the names of Cardinal players, especially the young crew that came up as possible trade considerations in that Soto deal, a side effect of that is potentially proving to them to be a reality check. Look, we're willing to get rid of you if you don't step up and show us that you're a guy that we want to keep around for a very long time. We could trade you, and you may not be here anymore. And so maybe that's a little bit of a motivational factor too, plus the level of competition, plus the fact you're at home and you're in that race for the division title. And let's be honest here, it may be the division title or out for the Central Division this year. So, let's take that into consideration as well as a possible contributing factor to the 7-game success.
Yeah, I'll say too, just with Marmol, I think one thing I've noticed, especially the end of July and even the early part this last week, that's different, I think, than Matheny or Schilt. You didn't see a getaway lineup yesterday on Sunday.
Right.
He
They
was,
were
I
trying to win
mean,
the game.
Donovan DHing batting second. We were talking about that. It was a little. I didn't really get that. Maybe they were just trying to get him going. But Nolan, Goldschmidt, Yachty played all 3 games this weekend. We knew he was going to catch Wayno yesterday. But Arenado, Goldschmidt, all the regulars, none of them had an off day this week. Goldschmidt and Arenado played both of those games of the doubleheader. Now, a little bit of difference than what Schilt or Matheny have had in years past, the DH. So you did have in that doubleheader, I think one of each of those games you had either Goldschmidt or Arenado get at least a little time off the field, and they only DH'd, which is great. But I like that, especially come August. Like, these are the games now. These guys need to be playing. You had a couple days off this week. You had a day off today. They need to be in there every day. And I love that he threw out his best lineup. He's like, we've got a chance to sweep the Yankees. We're going to go for it. And I loved it.
Yeah, Kyle, what do you have to say about, that part of it? It's rare, I think, in this year and years past that they actually are going for a sweep. And sometimes we've even said, what is up with this schedule? Do you think that is because it's the Yankees, like we're talking about playing up to it? Or is this because they felt like we need to really win this series?
Well, I think you get to the second half too, and hopefully that switch has flipped for the second half of the season. We're past the All-Star break. It is crunch time. It is time to get up and get moving, and so we hope that that's the case. Adding to the fact that to show that the Cardinals played to win. You saw Helsley out there for 2 innings in the final game of the series. You saw him pitch against the Yankees in the other game of the weekend too. So you're using your players as you would want them to be used as part of a pennant chase type team. So I credit Marmol and the staff for playing to win. Sometimes I get a little aggravated when I tell we're not doing that, especially in games that are winnable down the stretch. So good to see that out of them. And a podcaster reality check here, guys. I've got a broken air conditioner at my house, and I got to go meet a guy to hopefully get that fixed so I don't sweat to death tonight. So I'm going to have to bug out early on you, but I'll be watching and listening down the stretch. So
that's all right. Well, we also have another guest to bring on, so perfect
timing. There you go. Good job.
That's pretty important.
Be listening, guys.
All right.
I would take care of that. Yeah.
Thanks,
See you,
Kyle.
Kyle.
Yeah. Keep them going.
All right, well, so we're also going to bring on right now, the other guest is Dan Buffa, the great film Buffa. You can follow him on Twitter at Buffa82. Dan, thanks for joining us. You and Josh have met before, if you remember or don't remember.
Josh is a sweet angel of a man.
It's been a few Blogger years ago. I missed you this year at Blogger Day.
I know, and I really wanted to go because for a little while there, if you were trying to get credentialed, you couldn't be a blogger, and now I have thankfully returned to the land of just being a loudmouth in the city with a website and a few readers, making everybody mad. So yes, next year, Josh, I'll be there. I'm going to go there. I'm going to eat. I'm going to drink. And I'm asking Mo 2 buckling questions. First thing is, what is your real favorite pizza at California Pizza Kitchen? Second, why do you talk like this so much? Why? Where do you get that from, man? I want a Mozeliak origin tale. Who plays John Mozeliak in a movie? That makes my head hurt.
That's a fun question right there. That's a great question under your followers, especially with
Ciaran Hines, maybe. But he'd have to really rock the accent. I don't know. He just kind of reminds me of Mo a little bit. I don't know. Maybe he's not as funny.
I feel like somebody would have to shadow Mo. I feel like for a few months to get the mannerisms down.
Don't mind Michael. He's folding laundry.
Well, this year Blogger Day was my first time, and I think that Mo was more candid than I'd ever seen him, than I've ever experienced.
He sounds very transparent. I think he's getting into that I don't give a shit kind of.
I said the same thing. I think
is there language allowed in this podcast?
Sure, go ahead. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Baseball language. Well, no, but yeah, he just seems like he's being more straightforward. I think in the past he's been a little facetious about what he gives you, what he doesn't give you, and I think this year he's like, I don't care anymore. He's like, look, he was almost going to say I had a double cheeseburger and a drive-through last night. I've been on the phone all day, but I think he's getting into that stage of his career where he's really kind of not caring as much about how he frames answers. He's just going to give us the truth, but. and hopefully more pursuits. But the truth too is it is fun to have Candid Mo.
Yes, and I even said the same thing. I think that he's just kind of like, I don't give a shit anymore. Like, it's like, who
No,
cares? It doesn't really matter, and I'm going to tell you like it is, and I'm not going to be
yeah.
fired. I'm not really worried about it.
And you also have to think, you have a guy who's won a World Series with the team, and a team that he built, really, that he put together, the 2011 team. It didn't have Adam Wainwright, so he can always stand on that. And now he's collecting, studs, and ever so slowly, he is once again has a team that is going to make noise in the late summer days instead of just going quietly into the dark. So I think I get mad at him when he doesn't, as I've always said, he doesn't really finish the painting. Like, he doesn't like get these guys and get those guys, and we're just gonna bury Milwaukee. But that's just not the way they do it. And I think we shout at the walls. I'm gonna go down to Busch Stadium next week and just start shouting, like, why? But we want them to do all kinds of stuff, but they always find a way to get in there and play some great baseball. I had no bets on them sweeping the Yankees. I thought if they took 2 out of 3, it'd be like, wow, it'd be great. And then they got into a slugfest, like a Frazier Ali like slugfest on Sunday, and found a way to win.
I was at that game, Dan. It was awesome.
How was it 46? Was it 46 or 48? That thing must have been stuffed.
It was sold out. It was another. It was. I think it said the 10 sellout.
10 sellout. It was. I think it was 46 plus, and then Saturday was the largest ever at 48.5 and change.
Holy smokes!
It's crazy. But I'm going to switch gears a little bit, Dan, and ask you. The Field of Dreams, obviously movie related. I don't know if you've heard recently that in Evansville, Indiana, they're talking. The MLB has been in contact with them about bringing games to Evansville, where A League of Their Own was shot. So,
that's great.
What do you think about these, exhibition type games, movie, not exhibitions, they're actual real games, but like different settings in these movie settings, is that something you like, or is it, some people are
too gimmicky?
Yeah, too gimmicky, or,
No,
is it something that brings it?
I think you're combining two very emotional passions, like passions for people. I mean, movies and baseball. And if you can somehow have Kevin Costner, coming to the mound and looking out and seeing baseball players come through the crops for real, not like, the late Ray Liotta, which makes Field of Dreams hit all kinds of different way now. But I think it's great. I think they find creative ways to do it. I want them to choose really good matchups. I want them to. How about the Cardinals and the Yankees out in one of those fields? That would be great. You saw how exciting those games were. So I like the idea, but I never trust Major League Baseball to follow through on a good idea. But I like that they're incorporating new ballparks. So we're not just going to stick with the Field of Dreams. We got the League of Their Own. They have to get Tom Hanks out to tip his cap and whisper some profanity under his hat. If they're going to do this, they have to do tie-ins to the movie.
Absolutely,
You have to get Rosie and Madonna out there because that might get crazy. But you have to at least get Tom and maybe even Gina,
Yeah, so the rumor is that, or what they've discussed. I'm originally from Evansville, so I kind of have some inside knowledge of those parts. But
some insider.
Yeah.
Right.
So what the thoughts are that Marlins would be Yankees is the initial thought, because Don Mattingly is originally from Evansville. Don Mattingly is the manager of the Marlins, and also was a great Yankee. So that was the first iteration of the thoughts of who would be going against each other. But I think it'd be great. I love the Field of Dreams, so if we can bring it to other places, especially Evansville, I think it would be sweet.
Spread
I got-
around. How about
chills.
the Durham Bulls? How about a couple Major League Baseball teams playing down there? I know that minor league teams are like, hey, there's a lot of minor league states, but not all of them had Kevin Costner and Tim Robbins in there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought entertainment wise, they did that game great last year. I mean, I got chills watching.
Yeah.
I thought it was great.
Me too.
Keep going with it, man. I'd love to see give Tom Hanks let him be an interim manager for one of the home team the first inning, and come out there and get kicked out.
A pitching change.
Yeah, let him make a pitching change, or come out there and get into an argument with balls and strikes with the ump, and just throw his hat on the ground.
Yeah, that's as bad as my movie Lady Killers. That's your strike zone.
That would be fantastic. I would love that.
So
we were talking before you got on, obviously, about the winning streak and how they've done this week. Let's talk about some high points of that, because what got me from the weekend, and I was over the moon when we somehow won Friday with Hudson on the mound, because I thought that game was going to be the slowest game in Busch Stadium history. It sounded like Oliver Marmol thought the same as well. Ollie Marmol, because he talked about it through the game. I mean, this is like I feel like the third or fourth time now he's had to say that they've
Speed up. Yeah.
they've talked to Dakota about speeding up. Like our fielders are, they're on their feet too long.
Yeah.
But when we won that game, I thought, man, we might have some mojo going this week. Does it feel like to you, Dan, that this could be similar to September last year? Do you think we could be going into a double-digit streak just with how the schedule's lining up?
Yeah, because I think that the schedule's even softer this year. I mean, they really don't have any, except for really a tough stretch where I think they have the Dodgers again, where they have a couple teams where it's going to be, it's going to be kind of a formidable week. But outside of that, there's a lot of weak competition. And if you have a couple starters who just showed off that they can do what they're supposed to do, even Montgomery getting 5 innings against his former team, because that kind of thing can go both ways. The Yankees could have known him a little good, and he could have known the Yankees, but he holds them in check. And then Quintana comes out and goes 6 against the Cubs. I mean, the starting pitching wasn't the greatest over the weekend, but you can just see that things are coming together. I mean, people are getting healthy. Even Tyler O'Neill knocking, baseballs to the opposite field, working over pitchers, adjusting. I was at the game Friday, and I could see how frustrated Nolan Goldschmidt gets every time where he has to pinch hit for Albert Pujols. And if he doesn't come through, the whole crowd looked at him like, what did you do? And I can just see him walking back the dugout like, he just wants to squeeze something. But you see how passionate that even he is. I mean, and he's got 12 home runs. I mean, at least he had that on Friday night. He's just, in a smaller role than we're going to see from him in the future. Everybody's contributing. I wrote about Lars Nootbaar today because he makes an insane catch. He seemingly can dive anywhere. He comes up unscathed. It took 10 minutes for Jim Edmonds to get up from a diving catch. Nootbaar's out there doing everything. And then he's over the last 15 games. I didn't realize he was hitting that well. And so ever since the Juan Soto thing didn't go the Cardinals' way, other outfielders have went, okay, well, now we can step up. And I think he's went from a fourth outfielder to almost like, barging down the door for starter time.
Yeah, I mean, he's the guy right now. I mean, he's the reason you don't see a guy like Alec Burleson up getting a shot because Nootbaar's played so well.
The reason.
Well, I want to talk about this for 1 second because I think the guy this weekend for me, and since he's been up July 30th, is Paul DeJong. We got to give this guy some credit because if I was the number one, like one of the number one guys railing this guy for the last 2 years, crying for Trevor Story this offseason. Thank God we didn't do that.
No kidding.
Because it hasn't worked out for him in Boston. But how about Paul DeJong? Look, over the weekend, 3 for 9, 2 doubles, home run, 6 RBIs. He had 2 RBI, game-winning double on Friday. That was down right field. 2 for 3 Sunday with a double, and then the big home run, 3-run home run for insurance at the end. Look, since he's come up July 30th, since he's come back up, and this is only 8 games, so obviously it's a very small sample size. If you like batting average, we got nothing for you. He's only hitting 240. He's only hitting 240, but 375 OBP, 720 slugging, 1.095 OPS. Guys, he's got 3 home runs, 3 doubles, 10 RBIs in 8 games. He's got 9 Ks, but he's got 6 walks. And I think the walks has impressed me a little bit more than anything else. He's getting on base. He's taking some walks. You don't usually see that with him. Now, I don't know if this is for real because during this time, too, his average exit velocity.
Take what you can get, man.
But his average exit velocity right now is 95.9 on his hits. That's a 64.7 hard hit percentage. Just for some context, Aaron Judge, his hard hit percentage this year is 60.7. And DeJong, since he's come back, is 64.7. So there's no way that that's going to continue. It's just not. Even in 2019, his best season, his hard hit percentage was like 41%. So, I mean, he's otherworldly right now. But if we even get something like this with the pop at shortstop, that's going to be huge down the stretch because he has lengthened the lineup a lot. I would say do not move him higher than 5th or 6th in the lineup. That's the only thing. We tried him at cleanup and around 2 or 3. I think it put way too much. Yeah, put way too much pressure on him. I say leave him where he's at and keep rolling him out there until he gets cold.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of only when he came back up after almost 2 months in the minors. I mean, you just don't see that with Major League Baseball players saying, "I'm going to go down and just like basically do Bull Durham for about 2 months and rebuild your swing, rebuild your approach, and kind of get humbled a little bit because he got up here. He had a good couple years. He got the contract. And again, that was when they were kind of sending those out really quick and locking these guys up with their control. And then he kind of got derailed. And all you could get from him was the power. And then he comes back in a big way. We've always trusted his defense. And I think people put a lot of expectations on Paul DeJong. And I think the contract really loaded that up because I kind of compare this to Blues fans and their young players and the Cardinals fans. Like I think of Patrick Berglund a lot when he first came up. When a guy who was just people looked at like he was going to save the team, he was going to score 40 goals and be terrific. When he may have just been a good second winger if he had just progressed like that. And I see DeJong as a guy who isn't going to save the team. He isn't going to be able to hold the team on his back like Paul Goldschmidt can. He's kind of like the lesser Paul, but he's standing next to Paul Goldschmidt. So everybody's the lesser Paul. So really, any contributions that even him that big home run against the Yankees, taking the ball kind of like O'Neill, taking it to the opposite field. I think that's almost like protecting the zone for them, trying to cut down the strikeouts. And yeah, he looks great. I mean, it's not going to last, but nothing in this game lasts. Nothing. This winning streak isn't going to last, but you take those kind of hits from DeJong all day long, all night long, and you hope it lasts. And you hope that, yes, they don't move him up in the lineup. They don't apply more pressure. Just give him a day of rest. You don't have to ride him into the ground. There's a lot of baseball left, crazily enough, even as we sit in August. But I think whatever he does at this point, especially this season, is a bonus. I mean, a lot of fans have written him off like he's been here for 10 years and stunk. He hasn't. He just got kind of lost. I think maybe he got sucked into the power game and forgot about approach and about taking good at bats. But hey, when it comes to DeJong, you just ride it as long as it goes.
Yeah, and I thought about this today actually. Do you think the St. Louis Cardinals would have sent down Matt Carpenter and he would have taken the send down, right? You have to accept it, right?
I don't know if he would have, but
Maybe he would not have. But do you think that maybe he could have got on track and then made it back? I mean, because that's really the only option, right? They just kept on putting him in the game. They just kept on. She'll just kept on putting him out there, and it just was a struggle to watch. But if he would have taken a month down there, what could have changed?
I think almost like with him, you have a similar thing where they gave him the extension that a lot of people thought wasn't needed, even though he rescued that season really well. You don't want to just shovel off 2 years, especially when there's already a year attached that hasn't been played yet. So I think he's kind of a prisoner of the contract, and they kept putting him out there, but like, we got this extension. We can't let him rebuild his swing. And then Carpenter has himself said that he didn't really acknowledge Jeff Albert's advice because I'm sure it's kind of like a clubhouse thing where there's a hitting coach seminar over here. And Carpenter's like, I want to play some ping pong, I don't want to listen to that stuff. I'm going to look at my iPad.
I want to make my salsa.
Yeah, I was like, man, I'm trying to. Man, Wayno's got 6 gardens. I got 3. He's killing me. We're going to Pappy's 3 times a week, Carpenter. But I think if he would have had a chance to just strip everything down, he didn't have a problem going to play for was he playing for the Rangers minor league team?
Yeah.
So he took that assignment, and I just think the Cardinals were trying to make that contract stick, and I think one of those things where you could probably pry it out of Mo and just say, yeah, that was a little bit premature, but it's good to see him doing what he's doing. And since the Cardinals have some, lethal weapons of their own, it doesn't sour much, but you kind of put this in that, that Colton Wong kind of thing where, man, what if, but then you have Gorman and Edman. And so you weigh those things. And I think with what he's doing in New York, I think it's a perfect place for him because he doesn't have to be the stud. He's late in his career. I think he'll probably hopefully stick in the AL and, tack on a couple more years to his career.
Yeah, I will say too. I mean, I think a little different, obviously, between DeJong and Carpenter in terms of the age, in terms of where they're at.
Absolutely.
Really career, Carpenter
exactly. So that's what I was going to say too.
Yeah.
You got a guy like Carpenter who, 13 doubles machine, passes Stan Musial for the franchise record of doubles.
Walks.
Insane season. And then they asked him to get a little bit more power, and he gets into 35, 36, whatever it was in 18 when he just went off that second half.
Just a lot of home runs.
Yeah, and so I'm sure it would be hard for a veteran to hear, hey, your bat speed is too slow. You're just not catching up anymore. If you would change these things, like I mean, I could see myself even at that age, having that kind of success over the last 5 or
Sure.
6 years, being like, man, I'm a major league hitter. Like, I know what I'm doing. I don't need to change.
Yeah.
I don't need to change that much.
Kind of
And
reluctant to advice like that. You're like, I'm
yeah,
set in my ways.
and he said that. He acknowledged that, he probably should have listened a little bit sooner to what the Cardinals were trying
Yeah.
to say, and it took him getting to the offseason and getting really no interest besides
Right.
the Rangers getting sit down, seeing
Yeah.
that they weren't, and Jim Hayes had a great interview with him, I think it was Friday, and he said, he said, When I asked for my release," he said, "I thought that was it. I had my family come to the last AAA game because I thought that was gonna be it." And it was 4
Yeah.
days later, the Yankees just randomly called him and asked him if he could come help out. I think they had an injury or something, but he worked on his swing all summer, and he talked about finally listening to that advice, working on the bat
And
speed.
meeting with Matt Holliday. I
Yes,
think
Matt
that's
Yeah.
the real difference,
Meeting with
personally.
Matt
The
Holliday, and
real valuable Matt in this whole
yes,
deal is Matt
and you can
Holliday.
see it. Like, I know Yankee Stadium is built for the lefty hitters,
Sure.
but though, I mean, Dan, I don't know if you've watched some of the videos. These home runs he's hitting in New
Yeah,
York, they're not cheap shots, man.
I mean,
These
they'd
aren't.
be out of. I mean, I think will be out of San Diego. They'd
Yeah,
be sailing out of
absolutely.
Petco because
they're bombs.
he's putting that arch. Like for a few years, those would be flyouts, and
Yep.
now he's got that little uppercut lethal swing where he can just seemingly serve the ball to wherever he wants. Like he's smashing the ball to right center. I was at the game on Friday and I was able to be right in his sight line where he was hitting, and he just was rope a ball down the line. Like, wait a minute, it's like 2014, 15. This guy, he's popped out, but it just tells you that it's never over in the major leagues, especially with the advanced sabermetrics, as crazy as they are, and as much as they make our head hurt. They probably helped rescue Carpenter's career because he went back and, reassembled and listened to some tough advice. We all know it's hard to get that feedback. Like, hey man, your swing sucks. You look like you're 44, like Julio Franco, but not even Julio Franco, like really, really, really old Julio Franco. It's like he was just so
Yeah.
slow and he'd strike out and he tried to beat the shift too much, and now he's just doing what he should be doing. He's just swinging, and he's
Yep.
he's building counts. He's making pitchers work. He made Dakota work a lot. I think everybody makes Dakota work. I think you and I could get up there and probably draw 3 pitches.
Oh, we
All
could
right,
get a full
Dakota.
count. He's at a
There
full
it
count with
is.
everybody.
No kidding.
He
Well,
was, man.
I always worried about Carpenter's return in general, right? Whether it was as a fan or whatever it would
Yeah.
have come down to, like how he would have been perceived. I think this was the best thing possible for
was.
him to just be. He's going to be a red jacket guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He was, there for 10 years, and if he doesn't have this excitement and coming back when having those moments, I think he's looked at a lot differently from recent Cardinals years that would have shied people away. And I think this was the best thing for him. And the comeback and the wave and the hug with Yachty. I mean, I don't think
yeah.
it could have gone any better for him.
And also down to the very end, making the last out. I mean, come
Yeah.
on.
The last
Like,
2 games.
Hey,
2 games in a row,
That's
yeah.
right. Carpenter's
Like,
been good
thank
seeing
you.
you, but when you come to the plate, I think we're about ready to win the game.
Yeah.
And the one would have been out at Yankee Stadium that he hit to the wall.
Oh, yeah.
And then welcome
Yeah.
back to Bush.
Yep.
And, it's
Yeah, he
not
was
getting
like,
out of here.
Gosh, I got that, man.
He
Gosh,
probably had
just,
PTSD on that out.
No kidding.
He
Warning
did.
track power is what he's known for there at Bush.
2021. No.
Yeah, it was awesome though. You said you were there Friday, Dan. I mean, I know the
Lot of
standing ovation was
electricity.
nuts. It was nuts when I was there Sunday. I mean, people were going crazy, and you had the Yankees fans as well, rooting for him. But to the point of guys, being willing to get better. That's why I have loved Goldschmidt and Arenado. So I was listening
Yeah.
today on BK and Ferrario, and they had one of the hitting guru guys that have helped Lars Nootbaar. He helped him a lot during the All-Star break in this past year. And it's one of those guys that helped out a lot with particularly adding bat speed and helping
Okay.
him get more launch on the ball. And he was talking about how that's helped Lars, drive the ball with more authority because he's always been a pretty good hitter. He's always been a good on-base guy. But they said, well, they were talking to him like, where can we get your slugging up? And the guy talked a lot
Yeah.
about bat speed. It was
It's
really interesting.
definitely
But
up over the last 15
yeah,
games.
and he
He's
also talked
driving it.
about Arenado was there this offseason with Lars. So Arenado loves Lars. You see him in the dugout there, he's
Yeah.
always all over him. But that hit me. It's like, we think about Matt, it took him a little bit longer to take that advice, but you've got guys like Goldschmidt and Arenado who have been the most productive, like top 10 players last 5, 6, 7 years,
Sure. Yeah.
still trying to find ways to get better. I mean, you see it with Goldschmidt this year. He
I mean,
had the
that's
hockey
Yeah.
puck nub,
Like they work
all the time.
like
Yeah.
Lars. I mean, they work as
Absolutely.
hard as a Lars Nootbaar. I mean,
I love seeing that, man.
to him, Arenado last season was like, it was like, diet Arenado. I mean, he
Yeah.
knows that he can do a little better than that. And now he's come out and he has a 920 OPS as we
Insane.
are over a week into August. So I think he's just really driven. And I think the reason that he really was excited about coming here, outside of just having a better chance of winning and playing in a city that just adores its baseball, is that winning. He wants to win a World Series, and what better place to do it than in St. Louis? And so I think he has that contract. He has the opt out. It has to be in the back of his head, even if I don't think he's going to do it. But I just think he keeps himself driven and just trying to be the best player, and he can, which is pretty good for the Cardinals.
I was telling Ryan today, just real quick, I wanted to read the stat line off. It's easy to overlook how good Arenado's been this year because Goldschmidt's just been phenomenal.
Yeah, just
But since
ridiculous.
July 1st, so July 1st to August 8th, today, that's 26 games, 368 batting average, 450 on base percentage, 716 slugging, a 1.166 OPS. Got 8 home runs and 19 RBIs during that time. We're talking 26 games now.
It's like
716 slugging
Pujols, like
percentage.
from in the prime of Pujols, when he was just either he was getting on base or he was destroying the baseball.
Yes, it's been otherworldly for him right now.
Yeah.
I mean, and look, if there's one thing, maybe I think it's just a little slower right now is the home runs. I think they're starting to come
Yeah.
around, but he's been killing the ball right now.
Yeah, Dan,
Yeah,
I know
he's-
you only had about 20 minutes for us. We're going to bring on Brandon Gaudin, the voice of Madden, next. You can
Oh, there
hang
you
out
go.
with. You can keep on hanging out. I know you said you only had about 20 minutes.
Yeah,
So that's
I think I'm going to jump out because
yeah.
I was the guy that woke up in the middle of the night last night and said, "Hey, maybe we should just not go back to bed and be up morning." So
Well, we
practice
appreciate the
that
time.
pretty often.
We appreciate you coming on. Anything you want to plug or get people to get to your website or anything like that?
No, I mean, it just, the Ramble On newsletter. I'm pumping away everything of that, TV and sports, but the Dose Above has got all the film stuff. I'm trying to make that the go-to site for the movie stuff, but cutting things up, making sure I'm pushing everything in the right direction. But at Buff82 and at FSTL Sports Desk, I think Twitter's still the most chaotic, but also the most fun.
Yeah.
Even, it's just Facebook's still like the old person's home where it's the high school cafeteria. So you have to go into Twitter and just wear armor and have thick skin, but I get to do stuff like this. I mean, I met both of you on Twitter, so that's the goodness of it. So
Absolutely.
thanks for having me, and
Yeah.
keep on keeping on. And this team will give us a lot of stuff to discuss in these less than 2 months.
Oh yeah, and I've said it before, Dan. You're one of my favorite follows, man. I love the movie stuff too. I read the Bullet Train interview the other day. I'm a sucker
Yeah,
for
man,
Brad
I was a
Pitt
little
movies.
disappointed, man. It was
I'll
like it
probably
was
still go
lined
see
up
it.
like a 26-yard field goal, and for some reason it just bounced off the bar. I was like, "What the heck?"
I'm a
But
sucker for Brad Pitt movies, man. I'll probably still go see it.
you have to see it, and let me know what you think, because he's easy on the eyes, and when he's kicking people in the face, that looks kind of fun too. But I think the screenplay kind of let him down a little bit. But hey, he made a paycheck. He doesn't care.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks for jumping on with us, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan. We
Oh,
appreciate
man.
it.
Have a good
right.
one.
All right, now we're going to switch gears and bring on Brandon. Brandon's a little scared of video. Apparently didn't do his hair tonight or something. Brandon Gaudin, the voice of Madden, play-by-play for Fox Sports, play-by-play for Big Ten, for basketball. Brandon, thanks for joining us. You there?
Ryan, I'm here. I thought this is how old I am now. I thought I was tech savvy, and it keeps telling me that my camera is blocked. So I'm trying to join you via camera, but
That's right.
Anyway, here we are. Good to be on with you. Although I'm sorry to Josh that he's got to sit and chat. Josh, do you have to be stuck with him all the time? Because that's really unfortunate.
Oh, just podcast nights.
Oh,
No, we're constantly texting about the Cardinals, man. I probably drive him
there
more.
he is.
There he is.
Hey, you got it
There we
going.
go. We got
I probably
video.
drive him more nuts during the day than he does me with the texts I send him.
That's
Yeah.
true. Josh is usually a little more negative than I am, but
I've known Ryan for a long time, And where I come from, when you say Ryan Jenkins, people run the other direction.
Oh, really? Wow. I remember saving you a few times, flat tires and all those
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
I remember this multiple times. Well,
yeah.
Brandon, I appreciate you jumping on, but so obviously you're most known voice-wise for Madden. Yeah, how long you've been doing that for? How many years has that been going on now?
7 years. We're going on year 8. Actually, we just had our first recording session this morning for next year's Madden game. The one that is getting ready to come out, Madden 23, is released in 2 weeks. So we just started our first recording session for Madden 24, which is kind of hard to believe. But yeah, I've been doing it with Charles Davis, who he's on the number 2 CBS crew for the NFL with Iron Eagle. And he and I we didn't know each other from Adam until 7 years ago. And now it's the guy that I see more than my family, talk to more than my family. And so it's been cool. It is fun. It's a strange gig because since COVID hit, we do it all from our house. They set up a studio here. We used to have to go to Orlando to record it all. And I think a lot of people that play the game at this point, since we've been on there for 7 years, they're tired of hearing our voices. So I understand that. I relate to that because I remember playing the game growing up, and when you hear the same voices or only a few lines, it can be very frustrating. So hang in there with us. We won't be there forever, but we're enjoying it while we're there.
Yeah, do you ever get hate tweets, hate
Oh,
mail?
yeah. No, that's all part of the experience. The question is, do you let them get to you or do you develop thick skin? I mean, some of them are frustrating, right? You hope you get a few nice ones mixed in here and there. But I think the tough thing for me was when I got the job, I had never really had any type of a presence on any of the networks. And before me, it was Jim Nantz. Before that, Al Michaels. And before that, Gus Johnson.
So
And
nobody, really.
they had all already built up kind of a reputation because they had been doing games nationally. So people heard them on an actual game before they heard them on a video game. Well, 95% of the people heard me first on a video game. And
Sure.
a video game, no matter how good you record it, is always going to sound robotic and repetitive. And so it was kind of a strange introduction to be kind of the coming out party for my career, as opposed to a more traditional. It's been backwards for me. It was first Madden, and then I got into the TV broadcast side of things later. So, but don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. It's been awesome, but I think it's a different way to kind of enter the space.
Yeah, so you've done all kinds of different stuff. Obviously, you do play-by-play for college basketball. You do play-by-play for NFL sometimes, right? And then, what's your favorite one to do? You do baseball as well on Fox Sports 1.
Yeah.
What's your favorite to do?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with baseball. That was my first love. That's the first gig I had in high school at Harrison High School in Evansville, Indiana, was broadcasting Harrison High School baseball games. My first job out of college was minor league ball, getting paid $500 a month to broadcast 76 games in 80 days with nobody but my mother and maybe my sister listening. But that was my first love. Now, I've grown to love basketball and football equally, but getting to do last year and this year those MLB games, and I had a Cardinals game, as you know, a couple weeks ago when they played the Brewers, that's been neat because baseball to me always feels like riding a bike. What's strange is that since the pandemic hit, Fox, all the FS1 games and even some of the big Fox games are done from our house. So this is, for those that can see, that's where I broadcast the baseball games for Fox. So it's very strange to not be out and on site. The only game that Fox has on site every week is the national game on Saturday, which was Cardinals Yankees this past weekend. But that is usually always Joe Davis and John Smoltz, who are going to call the World Series. So it's a strange thing to do the games from home, but at the same time, I love baseball so much that no matter where, if they told me do it in your closet, do it on Jupiter, wherever they told me to do them from, I'm not going to turn those gigs down because I always enjoy that.
Yeah, and I didn't want to bring that up. I didn't know if you wanted to say that or not. That the games are not. You're not there, which is crazy to me, and it doesn't. And you don't like to hear it, but it doesn't sound that much different because of that. And most people, I don't think, will even notice that. I can tell usually more on basketball than I can on baseball, but I think it's crazy that you're able to do that. So you've been to a lot of places. He's a Braves fan, Josh, by the way.
Well, I grew up a Braves fan. I
yeah.
haven't followed them in a while, but if you want to talk baseball, I can talk 90s Braves and give you every lineup from 91 to 99. Now nobody's interested in that, but that's where I had my bread and butter, was right there. So
Yeah, so you've done games everywhere, a lot of places. You've been to a lot of stadiums and arenas. What's your favorite as a fan or as a broadcaster to go into and do games, whether that's college basketball or NFL
yeah,
or whatever?
it's hard to beat college football on a Saturday. It really is, just because. And NFL stadiums are great, but college football with a pageantry, with a band, with the students, with a tailgating, and then sometimes, you go to Michigan, you go to Ohio State, there's over 100,000 people there. That's an atmosphere that I have found that's pretty much unrivaled. So since I mostly do Big Ten games when it comes to college, I would say Michigan, Ohio State, or Penn State, a night game at Penn State. Those are just three of the best sports atmospheres I've ever been in. Major League Baseball, though, those are my favorite stadiums. When growing up in Southern Indiana, going over to Cardinals games, like that was it. I remember being there when Mark McGwire hit his 55th en route to when he and Sammy Sosa were going back and forth that year, and he eventually hit 70. But when he hit 55, I was there. He hit it off Kevin Millwood of the Braves on Sunday Night Baseball. And so the baseball stadiums, to me, that was the mecca. And to me, it still is. They have the most character. They're the coolest. Most of them, even though some of them have roofs, you can still have mostly outdoor games. And that to me is special. So there's something about sitting in a stadium with a hot dog and a beer it doesn't matter what the sport is. As time goes for me, nothing replaces that with a game of baseball.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Brandon, I grew up in Arkansas. I don't know if you can hear it. My wife tells everyone that they can still hear it, but I grew up in Arkansas, right across the bridge from Memphis, Tennessee. So it's pretty much you were either Cardinals fan or Braves fan where I was from. It's kind of the same thing. That was the games that we got on TV every week. We usually had the Braves and the Cardinals channels, so I kind of grew up, watching the same players. And honestly, when we got John Smoltz toward the end of his career, if you remember. He started for the Cardinals, I think, for a year or two. I can't remember when I think that was that after 20 or no, that was before 2011.
Yes.
It was like 8 or 9, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And he was still effective, man. I remember when we got him, it's like that was pretty cool. I thought it was cool to watch him come out and start a few games and help us out that year.
Yeah,
But
and I remember when I was in high school, so there were 3 or 4 years there where the Cardinals and Braves were really battling it out.
Yeah.
And all my buddies in high school and then early in college were all Cardinals fans. So I I remember one day I snuck my Tomahawk into Harrison High School, my Braves Tomahawk, because the Braves had just won the NLCS, and I was chopping down the hallways to all the Cardinals fans. So even though when the Braves weren't playing the Cardinals when I was younger, I liked the Cardinals, and I also I know this is going to sound like blasphemy to any Cardinals fans, but the Cubs were always on WGN, and it was Harry Carey. And so when I would come home from after school, this is back in the 90s, Wrigley Field didn't have lights. So I would watch the Cubs on WGN. And then at night at 7:05, the Braves would come on TBS. So as a kid, I would just sit there and watch 8 hours of baseball. And I just couldn't get enough of the announcers. And that's really how I fell in love with broadcasting and with the game of baseball was through Harry Carey doing the Cubs on WGN and then Skip Carey broadcasting the games on TBS.
yeah, one of my best friends growing up, huge Cubs fan. His whole family was. Cubs and Cardinals played. That was like our World Series. So it was smack talk all weekend. And to this day, I never let him live it down. If you remember, it would have been mid to early 2000s when Pujols was tearing it up. I remember there was one weekend he proceeds to tell me, I think Derek Lee hit like a walk-off home run off. He's like, this guy's going to be better than Albert. I was like, man, I'm going to make a mental note of you saying this, and I'm never going to let you forget it. And I haven't. So that was fun.
Well, Brandon, I know you only have a little bit of time left. So what's next? You've people don't know, but you were at University of Evansville being play-by-play on the radio there. You were at Butler University going back-to-back national championships, being on the radio there. Then Georgia Tech, right? And then you where you are now. So where do you want to be? What's next for Brandon Gaudin, and where can we hear you next? You think?
I couldn't have said this like 6 or 7 years ago because it probably really sounds cliche, but I like where I'm at. I love Fox. Yeah. The fact that I can do Major League Baseball was the last thing I wanted to check off, and I started doing that last year. So doing Major League Baseball and kind of this split between NFL and college, I enjoy both of those. And then college basketball. I mean, growing up in Indiana, that was king. So as long as I can keep broadcasting those sports that I love and do it at Fox, who they keep growing their profile. They're number one in the NFL. They are getting more of the Big Ten media rights. They've really expanded in college basketball, and they own the postseason for baseball. So I feel fortunate to be a part of their company, and I just want to keep doing that. And whatever the games are, like I enjoy that. A lot of people say, well, don't you want to call the Super Bowl or the World Series? Like, sure, at some point, I'm still relatively young. At some point, if that was in the cards, that would be great. But if you told me that I would not make it to the World Series or the Super Bowl, but be able to call games for 30, 35 more years, and I'm perfectly content and happy with that. So right now, I'm just mixing it up with baseball. My next game is Astros and White Sox a week from today. I have football preseason, Lions and Falcons on Friday before that, so I head up to Detroit tomorrow. So this crossover season from baseball to football is a lot of fun. And then November, December, when you cross over from basketball to football, I also just find that a fun, challenging time to be able to balance the sports and bounce around. So, yeah, man, I'm thankful, incredibly thankful and fortunate. I'm just going to keep doing this until somebody tells me to turn the microphone off and go do something else.
Well, can you tell me that my Indiana Hoosiers are going to be good this year?
Oh gosh. Growing up in Indiana like we did, it was always crazy because, Bobby Knight at the time was the icon. I remember, by the way, I'll answer your question in a second. When Bobby Knight came to Harrison to recruit Calvert Chaney,
yeah,
and they had to have 4 security guards, cops around him just to protect him. It was like the Pope was coming to town. So we've all seen the mecca of Indiana basketball back in the glory days. And Ryan, I hate to tell you, it hasn't been like that for a long time. But you got back in the NCAA tournament, and you virtually have the entire team back this season.
Yes.
So I think that they have as good of a chance as anybody to win the Big Ten this year and to make a run in the NCAA tournament. So if there was ever a time to be as excited about Indiana basketball, it's now. I would say this is going to be the most exciting team they've had since that Zeller Oladipo team was the 1 seed and then got upset by Syracuse in the Sweet 16.
I don't want to talk about that, but
I know you don't, but I'm just saying it's you're back. You're getting back on that stage. So
is Butler? What? Josh is an Arkansas fan. You have anything for Arkansas?
I don't follow Razorback baseball or basketball as much as I should, honestly.
Well, you probably follow football though.
Not as much as you would think. Now I'm a Colts fan by default because I went to school in Tennessee, and everyone is a Peyton Manning fan. So I've been watching Colts games well before I moved here in 2013. But no, not as much as I would hope to be. I mean, one of the last guys I remember Razorbacks wise when I was in high school was Ryan Mallett was one of the big names for a while. So that was a long time ago.
Yeah. It's funny. He was they had that spring league. They called it this year the USFL, but last year it was just called the spring league. Guys still trying to make it. And Ryan Mallett was the starting quarterback trying to get back in the NFL. But unfortunately, things didn't go too well. So I think he hung it up.
Well, Brandon, we appreciate it. I know you said you only have until 10 o'clock Eastern time. So we appreciate the time. Hopefully get you on again soon and see you soon in Bloomington, right?
Yeah, well, I appreciate you letting me mix it up. I know your listeners, they want to hear Cardinals talk. So
they do. Well, we talk about, we had Dan Buffa on, who, I don't know if you know Dan. We've had Dan on. We've had other people on. And so, we can break it up with some Cardinal stuff. You did a Cardinals game. You're a Cardinals guy. There you go.
Well, I might have another one in September, so maybe before that game, when I'm getting back and up to speed to the Cardinals, we can get back on and talk about all the races as we get towards October.
Yeah.
Sounds good. We appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, guys. See you.
Thanks, Brandon.
All right.
Well, I mean, that was fun. I mean, we kind of rapid fire from Kyle to Dan Buffa to Brandon Gaudin. I mean, we're only an hour in. We're only an hour in. We usually go an hour and a half, 2 hours. It feels like we should be 2 hours in as is. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you want to keep going. We had conversations to talk about Nolan Gorman. And
I pissed off some younger kids today in a Twitter space. Talking about Nolan Gorman.
And BK.
I got called a boomer. Did I tell you that?
No, you didn't say that.
One of them called me a boomer, and I'm like, I mean, I'm not even 32 yet, man. Like, dang, I've aged 30 years already. I had to tweet out the GIF of the guy like shaking his fist at the clouds.
At the cloud, nice.
Yeah, the Simpsons one.
Yeah.
Like, what in the world? No, all I pointed out, and we talked about this, is Nolan doesn't seem, at least this last week, to be getting as many consistent at bats. as you would hope, as you go back to that quote that Mozeliak had before he got called up when DeYoung got sent down, that he wasn't going to be up here unless he's getting consistent at bats. And it seems like with DeYoung hitting the way that he has been, they seem pretty hell-bent on Tommy being in the lineup most days. And I think what he's done this year would command that. And his defense at second base, shortstop, wherever you play him, has still been great. But again, Albert has turned it on these last 30 games. Now he's cooled off a little bit, but he's been DHing a lot.
And he hasn't played a lot recently, to be honest.
Yeah, which we've had like 3 or 4 righties in a row.
Yeah.
So that was kind of to be expected. But yeah, I pointed out that his last 30 games, last month, which was 21 games, have been a little rough, hitting around 197, only 5 home runs, I think like 7 or 8 RBIs. So not, 460 something slugging, not tearing the cover off the ball. I don't think it's insane to say that that's not great over 21 games, right? Now, but like you pointed out, he still had some games the last 4 or 5 days. Had the huge game against Stroman, the home run to get that rally going. He should have had a double in that game too. He got robbed. So he's still hitting the ball hard, and that's something I think if he's hitting the ball hard, like we're seeing with DeYoung, you're going to start getting results. But my question was more so not that, hey,
he deserves to go down.
Yeah, I wasn't saying, oh, he's had 25 strikeouts in 21 games. Just send him down. It was like, no, I'm wondering where the at-bats are going to come from if they're going to keep rolling DeYoung out there, which they probably should, the way he's hitting right now.
Sure. So the conversation started on my end was listening to BK and Ferrario today.
Right.
Was that and last
BK even said he wants to see him
go down.
No,
he said last week that he said that he was going to go down. He's going to go down.
I heard him say today, mention something about maybe seeing
trying to outfield. Yes.
Yeah, which I mean,
sure, he's an athlete. Let's try it out.
Yeah.
But since the last game in Toronto, so there's 2 games, right? So the second game in Toronto, he's actually been pretty good. And
hitting oppo home runs
yes,
too. With
and
a lot of power.
In the last 7 games, he's batting over 300. On base percentage is over 400. I think that's everything you expected. But I also think a part of that is he was told by John Mozeliak, "You're that dude, right? We're not trading you." He and Carlson both have come out and said, "Yes." John Mozeliak had a conversation with us. He said, "We are not trading you." I think that gave them both confidence. But if John Mozeliak is coming to you and saying, "We're not trading you," do you think that means, "Hey, little buddy, we're going to be sending you down to Memphis"? I don't think that's possible.
Look,
I just don't see it. If you're going to be that poignant to say we're not going to trade you.
Yes. My only counter argument to that would be a month before he traded for Nolan Arenado.
Sure.
He said, "Matt Carpenter, you're our third baseman."
Sure.
This whole offseason and when it started, Paul DeYoung, you're our shortstop. And at the end of the day, now those 2 guys were performance-based.
Right.
Which is why, the trade for Arenado happened. And DeYoung getting sit down. He was not hitting. Again, Gorman's still hitting the ball pretty hard. He's still producing for the most part. You have the strikeouts, but again, you can live with that when you're hitting a home run every 8, 9, 10, 11.
Right. And he's also been walking more than I think expected as well.
Yes.
So that's why his on base is high.
He's played second base, I think, better than anyone expected.
Yes.
He's handled it well. So I don't think from a performance standpoint, he deserves to be sent down. But yeah, my thing is like where the at-bats are going to come from. Because we talked about it earlier. I went to the game yesterday. Brendan Donovan's DHing batting second. Right. I didn't understand that. I know Donovan hadn't gotten some starts in a while. Maybe they were trying to get him going. Gorman had a rough day Saturday. Everybody had a rough day Saturday. It was a 1-0 game. Arenado
both sides were rough. Yeah.
Yeah. Arenado had the only RBI hit. So that was a head scratcher. So that's where I'm wondering. It's like if it's not Gorman, at some point, we haven't had an update on Yepez. He's got to be back at some point soon.
There was an update. I think Katie Wu today on 101 ESPN said
they've been saying he can hit right now. He's fine hitting.
He's going to have a rehab start. He and Flaherty are going to be pretty much in Memphis at the same time. It sounds like. I
would hope Yepez is back before Jack, at least in the major.
Yeah,
Jack's still probably
he needs to get some
built up
for sure. But I think you look at it as Brendan Donovan has been really bad over the last
he's struggled
40 days probably. He's batting under 200. He is probably put out there to try and get going because what it's going to take to win a World Series. I don't think this team is a World Series team, but they can get hot and beat anyone. I think at that time, I don't think it matters who it is as long as the team gets hot, they can win. And this team has the lineup to do that. But I think if you ever have a chance to do that, it's because you have a deep lineup.
Yeah.
You can get guys off the bench that come in and get a hit. And what Brendan Donovan did early in the season is what they would like to be able to have is a guy to be able to get hits off the bench.
Super utility guy,
Yeah.
play everywhere. Yeah.
That's what he needs to be. Brendan Donovan, I don't think will ever be a starting player in Major League Baseball. He's not going to be a consistent guy out there. Nolan Gorman is the future of the Cardinals or the future of some other team if they decide to trade him for something else at any point. But I think he's going to be a fixture in someone's lineup. So that's why and we talked about why has he not been batting against the lefties. It's time to put him out there. It's time to get him those as even if that means, as me as a big Tommy fan, that Tommy needs to sit some more. And he did on Saturday was a late scratch. I didn't hear why he was a late scratch.
That was weird. I don't know.
And Gorman came in and batted it in his spot.
Right.
So I think that's a big part of it. I think that you just got to get him his reps, and just kind of like Albert Pujols. He wasn't hitting the ball very good at different points this season, but whenever he got consistent reps, same with Brendan Donovan when he was initially called up. You said he's trash. Get this guy out of here, and he just didn't get any reps.
Well, we had Nolan Gorman mania.
That's true.
He was called up immediately when DeYoung was sitting down instead of Gorman. We were like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, absolutely. But he wasn't hitting because there wasn't the reps. So I think you got to keep guys, and that's why Bader was expendable as well. There's so much depth and should all be, in theory, better hitters than Bader.
It's a great problem to have. I mean, it's a good problem to have. I mean, part of the reason you had Albert start hitting well is, he didn't have Yepez taking DH spots away from him. Yepez got hurt. So, I mean, it's good to have this depth. I just want to make sure he's getting the at-bats because I do think that he's a guy that needs consistent at-bats to if it's pinch hitting here or there and it's a strikeout, a lot, it's going to look worse than if he started 5-6 games in a row, hits 2 or 3 home runs and has, 7-8 strikeouts. It's not as bad when you've got that whole week to play. And it just seemed like yesterday is a prime example. I just don't understand why he didn't start. I mean, Frankie Montas, repertoire wise, very similar to Marcus Stroman.
Yeah.
Nolan Gorman was tattooing the ball for Marcus Stroman.
Right. I mean, he did early in the season as well.
Yes. And so I just didn't get it. Again, could have just been trying to get Donovan started, getting him going, but I don't know if sitting Gorman was the right move on that.
Well, so Sosa's no longer on this team either.
Right.
Right.
Which is where DeYoung came back in.
Right. So DeYoung is back in, but who should be playing third base when Nolan is taking the day off?
Probably Gorman.
It should be Gorman, but who's probably going to be? It's going to be Donovan.
Yep.
So why not use Gorman in his utility? What he can actually play is third base, right? He came up as a third baseman. He has a strong arm. He has a really strong arm. So why not use him in that position whenever you want to get Nolan Arenado off his feet for a day when he's DHing or a day off in general, and use him that way? Because I think the goal should be to get him in the lineup every single day.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and I'm fine with like what BK said as well. Get him some outfield reps. I want to, get him to take some fly balls first. I don't know if he's doing that at all.
I don't know if he has, but it's not a bad idea. Mainly because look, Tyler O'Neill's looked great lately. Like he's going the other way. He's starting to get some power back, but he could have cramps or he could slide and have an injury any day. I mean, we've just seen it. So who goes out there and plays left field right now? It's Dickerson.
Right.
And look, Dickerson's had a good last couple of weeks, but talk about a guy like this week.
He hasn't played.
Not a lot of at-bats.
Yeah.
So you throw him back in there now, who knows what you're going to get. So right now, if O'Neill were to go down, I mean, I think your only option is either to start putting Yepez back out there, which didn't go too well.
Right.
Or call up Alec Burleson and give him a shot, which I would rather see that if O'Neill gets hurt again.
Then you got to get someone off the 40-man, and that's a whole other thing as well.
Exactly. And so it's going to be interesting. Again, I think it's a great problem to have. I mean, I don't think we've had this kind of depth for a while, especially with young guys. This many young guys that have been pretty productive on the season. So it's not a bad problem to have at all. One thing we didn't talk about earlier that we didn't get to mention, and I didn't even know about it until it happened in the game, was Yachty's 1,000th hit at Busch Stadium 3. Most hits at home stadium, or most hits at Busch Stadium.
Yes, and second most ever by a catcher at one stadium.
Well, he's only the second catcher ever to have 1,000 hits or more at their home stadium. The other one's Yogi Berra.
Right.
So that right there alone, that stat for me is if you don't think Yachty or Molina is a Hall of Famer, you can just take that stat.
Now I don't know how many. I didn't look this up, so I don't know how many games Yogi Berra, how many seasons.
He probably did in less games. I would imagine.
But Yogi Berra was a catcher for a very long time, though, right?
That longevity matters, man. But you don't see it anymore.
I'm not a Yankees aficionado. I don't know, but I do believe that Yogi Berra played for a very long time.
Yeah.
So my question is, I looked it up, and Yachty had, I'm gonna forget what I looked up. I do believe 60 hits at Busch 2. So from in 04 and 05, he had 60 hits in that ballpark. I do believe that Yogi Berra had 1,045 hits at Yankee Stadium, which obviously he played every single game in his major league career at home at Yankee Stadium, where Yachty did not have that benefit because of changing over ballparks.
Oh yeah, they didn't get a new ballpark during his time, right?
Right. Yeah, Yogi Berra, the
So
Yankee Stadium's been around forever. I mean,
Yogi,
the old stadium
Yeah, Yogi, I'm seeing here, he had 2,150 hits.
total.
So, well, 49, 48. So he played like 4 games with the Mets
Okay.
in 1965 after being done in 63. I don't know what that was about.
Yeah.
But he played 19 years.
19.
So,
And
yeah,
so all
18.
So 18 years of it were at
Yeah.
Yankee Stadium.
So over 2,000 hits
So
at
what
Yankee
you
Stadium.
over? I thought it was I thought I read it was 1,045, or they said on the broadcast. I think that's what Dan said on the broadcast. It was like 1,045 at home. Maybe he misspoke, or maybe I heard it wrong.
Oh, at home.
Yes.
Yeah, that's probably right.
Okay.
I'm just looking at hits total.
Career-
So that's probably
Okay.
right. Yeah.
So like
But
1,000.
about like Yachty, I mean, they both played, I think Yachty's at 19 years.
That's what
right?
I'm asking is
Yeah.
how many is Yachty way over the years played? But my point is
19 years. This is his 19th year too.
So
they both played 19 years.
So they both played 19 years, and 60 of Yachty's hits were at Busch 2. So he would have more hits at this ballpark than Yogi did at Yankee Stadium, was my point I was trying to get to.
And Yachty, by the way, very realistic chance that he finishes his career with more hits than Yogi Berra. He is only 6 hits from tying him.
Awesome.
I mean,
that's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yogi Berra is regarded as one of the best.
Yogi Berra won 3 MVPs.
And he won a lot of world championships
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah.
And Yogi Berra is regarded as one of the best catchers of all time.
Oh,
Obviously, Pudge Rodriguez is up there as a hitting catcher. I wouldn't say he was as good of a defender as Yachty, but he was good in his own right.
And much more power, 358
Absolutely.
home runs, but
Tons more.
2,150 hits.
Mike Piazza, obviously more power driven than defensively driven. So I think, good defense and good offense was Yogi Berra was the stepping stone. That's what you look at. But if he has the chance, 6 more hits, I mean, obviously he should do that. He had 2 yesterday, I do believe, in hits. So he should be able to surpass Yogi Berra for
It's a
more
big
hits.
milestone, man.
What is that, 5th on the list or what?
I'm not even sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure on catchers, but I mean, it's got to be up there if you got a chance to pass Yogi. Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know that he was at that. They flashed that up on the screen, and all of a sudden, I'm above Big Mac land. We were in the cheap seats, and people start going nuts. I'm like, what's going on? And he had just gotten the hit, and I look up on the screen. I'm like, wow. I mean, everybody. I mean, he took his hat off, tipped the crowd at first base. They threw the ball out. Huge. And Paul DeJong got his 100th career home run.
Yes. And
and that's most all time, by the way, for Cardinal shortstop.
For a shortstop, yeah, because the Cardinals in history don't have big hitting shortstops.
As much as we've ripped DeJong, I mean, he's been our best power hitting shortstop in the history of the franchise.
Yeah, I was looking up. So Ivan Rodriguez had 2,844 hits.
That's a lot. Yeah. I'm surprised, honestly, Yogi doesn't have more. I mean,
Ted Simmons, 2,472. So 400 less than Ivan Rodriguez, obviously a Cardinal. Carlton Fisk, 2,356. Jason Kindle, 2,194. Yogi Berra, 2,150. And Yachty, whatever his updated numbers are.
2,144.
It's 2,144. So what did I say? 1, 2.
Is he 6th?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7th right now.
7th.
I do believe.
But he's 6 away from tying Yogi.
Yes.
For 6.
And then the next one would be 2,195. So he'd have to get 40 some odd more hits.
That might be tough.
Yeah. So
last month and a half.
Yeah. So he could end up 6th all time in hits for a catcher.
Insane.
I think that is, if you think about the guys on the list, what I just said, Mike Piazza, Ivan Rodriguez, Ted Simmons, Carlton Fisk, Jason Kindle, and Yogi Berra. I mean, being in that company by itself, you cannot tell me that Yachty Molina is not a Hall of Famer. I think there's been people over the years that are like, no, I don't think so. But as he's gone on and hitting these milestones, it's like, how can you not? I think even the national pundits have been like, yeah, Yachty is not only a Hall of Famer, a lot of them think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Oh, he's got to be. I mean, if you remember when he was called up, They literally told him, we don't
care what
we
you
don't
do."
care what you do at the plate. Like, just keep doing what you're doing, behind home plate when you're catching. And to see what he's become as a hitter, I mean, we forget, man, mainly because there was other guys that were so crucial. 2012, fourth in MVP balloting. 2013, third in MVP balloting. 2012 was probably his best offensive season ever. He hit 22 home runs. Like, this is a guy after Albert left that really stepped up offensively. 2012, 2013, 2014. I mean, like, 2012 and 2013, 137 OPS plus, 129 OPS plus. That's Nolan Arenado range,
Right.
OPS plus. I mean,
He was carrying the team.
yes,
And
him and Carpenter.
Carpenter obviously
2013 broke out.
But I thought when Albert Pujols left in 2011,
I thought we were toast for a
because
while.
I think his contract, Yadier Molina's contract, was up in 12 or 13. I don't remember exactly.
I think they gave him that extension, I want to say going into 12,
Okay.
right after Albert left, didn't they? That was like the first big extension that they
I
gave.
thought 100% Yadier Molina, best friends of Albert Pujols, would be leaving and joining him in Los Angeles, in Anaheim, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
I thought for sure he would leave. And I bet if you look back at that now, Yadier Molina could not be happier that he stayed with St. Louis and is having the career that he had, because it would be less fanfare out there and probably less opportunity and attempts. Do you think the Angels are still running him out there at his age this year?
Well,
I don't
not
think
to
so.
mention making the playoffs.
No kidding. Yeah, he went to another World Series in
And he
2013.
and Carpenter had their postseason moments alone are worthy of a red jacket
Right.
in those 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
I mean, the postseason moments alone. I mean, if Matt Holliday, we talked about this. Matt Holliday's a red jacket, and I loved Holliday. I know we can debate on how clutch he was. Holliday didn't have a ton of postseason heroics, really. I mean, not many at all.
He had a bug in his ear.
Yeah.
Ear. I think it was ear. He left the game.
Yeah, it was a moth or
he
something.
hurt his pinky, I do believe, in one.
Alan, you know who made the last catch of the World Series in left field?
I was in left field.
Alan
yes,
Craig.
absolutely. Not Matt Holliday.
Yeah,
because he missed Game 7 after being injured in Game 6. I will never live. Matt Holliday will never live that down. He was injured in Game 6 and came out of the game in Game 6 of the World Series, and then did not play Game 7.
You're gonna love him in about 3-ish years from now
when he's on the Cardinals staff.
Coach.
Yeah,
and these guys are.
It's like
son, McGuire. They're tearing the cover off the ball.
Son, so obviously the one that just got drafted.
3 years. Give me 3 years.
He has another one at sophomore. I thought he had one more below that. I could be wrong.
I'm not sure,
but I heard the sophomore one is
even better than
bigger already than the one that's going in the majors.
Must be nice, man.
I mean, Matt Holliday's a big dude.
Credit to his kids too. I mean, that would be hard, kind of living under like a major league father's or major league, player, your dad's shadow a little bit. And
how many of these guys
expectations?
How many of these guys don't make it? You look at basketball and all those types of things. Like they just can't.
What was it? It was Matheny's kid a couple of years ago. Was a high draft pick, right? And,
yes.
And it didn't pan out.
Yeah, you get, like even in basketball, Michael Jordan's son was nothing.
Cannot imagine.
Was
the
nothing.
Pressure.
And LeBron's son is trying, and he's ranked in the 4-star.
Them two are looking pretty good.
Yeah, and the other, his second son is bigger. Than the other one. Yeah, so I think there's just the pressure has got to be just immense.
Oh yeah.
But now Jackson Holliday just signed an $8 million deal.
He's
at
good
18
either way, man.
years old. He's
even if you don't make it,
he's got $8 million.
You've already made your parents
That's
proud
crazy,
of that.
Yeah,
that's just insane.
All right, man. Well, what else you got? I mean, tonight was a flying,
but it was a good one. I mean, for us, this
short.
Through.
This is short for us. 118.
Yeah,
no big deal. I mean, you got anything else? I mean, you want to?
No, I mean, I just wanted to give DeYoung some credit because I've ripped on him for the last year and a half. So again, to go down that long and come back and look, Lars talked about it. I saw some quotes in a story because Lars was back down there some with him when Lars was going back and forth, and he said, "Man, DeYoung, class act the whole time, as humble as you could be, and that's all."
Buying a lot of dinners.
Yeah, and that's all. I mean, that's all you can ask for him because he could have pouted, he could have gotten pissy, he could have, and he didn't. He just stuck with it, and it's easy to root for a guy like that when they come back up. And there's a reason we want to root for a guy like that. We want to root for Matt Carpenter this year, when he's not playing us.
And I would like to mention Kyle, our friend with Birds on the Black. He talked about whenever he used to post his gifs of Paul DeYoung getting hits and home runs, the vitriol that would be said about Paul DeYoung in those. And like, he's a Cardinal, and he still is and was then. how can you not root for a guy? Whenever he started getting hot in the minors, I'm like, great, he's going to be an awesome trade piece now.
That's
But I
what
still
thought,
wasn't
yeah.
rooting. I wasn't rooting against the guy.
No.
Why would you want to root against the guy? You want him to be as awesome as possible for the team or as a trade piece, no matter what. You want him to not
If you were
die
doing
off.
you better not have been rooting for him this weekend.
No
when
kidding.
he won, pretty much won the last 2 games, Friday and then Sunday.
Yeah.
I mean
how
without those hits, like.
And yeah, I just don't understand that. I mean, I was rooting for the guy because I want him to do well, because
Yeah.
if he does well, the Cardinals do well, whether he was traded or whether he's actually in games and hitting like he has been. So, I mean, it's obviously a small sample size. I just hope it keeps going for him. But if it doesn't, he was able to still make his comeback story at some point, right?
Yeah.
He was able to get back to some level, and maybe they figure him out again and it doesn't go as well, but at least he was able to kind of bounce back. One thing I did forget about, and you may have forgot about, if you want to talk about briefly or a long time, whatever, Jason Hayward.
Oh yeah.
So the Cubs tonight said, or leaked, or I don't know how it came out exactly, that Jason Hayward will not play the rest of the season for the Cubs, and that they plan to release him in the offseason.
Parting ways next year. They're just going to pay him $23 million.
$23 million plus.
23 and a half, something
Yeah.
like that, to just chill at home.
Just to go away. Look, Jason Hayward has been terrible. He helped them win a World Series, and a lot of people just like him for his speech that he gave, right?
Yeah.
I just don't get why you would put that out there. Why not try to trade him and take on half the salary? As what's his name? Jed Hoyer? Is that right?
Jed Hoyer,
Yeah,
I think
Jed
is
Hoyer.
their GM, yeah.
So why not say, all right, we'll trade him and we'll take on $15 million of his salary.
If you at least take half.
If you take some of it, I don't understand that. That just doesn't make sense to me as a business decision.
Maybe they tried, and there was just no team that was interested. And I could see that, man, with the contract and with him, the injuries the last couple of years. I mean, because the way he's been injured with his legs and stuff, it's like that's the value that he brings. He's like Bader. That's that it's the defense.
You're right.
He's not a hit guy.
So
I mean, arguably his best offensive season was the one we had.
Right.
In 20, what was it? That was that 13 or 14?
And he wasn't still very good that year.
No,
I mean, he was good.
Like 13 home runs.
Good, but
his batting line was fine.
Right. So in theory, let me ask you this, kind of like we talked about Carpenter and DeYoung earlier. Could they send him down? He clears waivers. No one wants him. And then he could go to the minors and maybe work on stuff? No? Is that not an option too? They just don't want to pay that kind of money to a guy on the roster? Or
yeah, I mean, I think that's what it is. I mean, a guy like that too, I would be surprised if he would do that. I mean,
what are the options? If you're sent down and you don't have any options, you go on the waivers, and any team can pick you up, right? But if no team picks you up, then you go back to that minor league club, right?
Yeah. Or you can do what you can do like Carpenter did, and you can ask for your release.
Right.
But I mean, they're still having to pay the rest of whatever.
No matter what, right?
Yeah.
So he would probably just say, "I'm just ask for my release."
And who knows? Maybe that's what he wanted. Maybe he talked to them that way. It's just, for me, I loved it because immediately what I thought of was the quote that he had when he signed with the Cubs is I didn't want to. The Cardinals have an aging core. That was the quote, right?
Yes.
Aging core. Yachty and Wainwright and Albert, Albert wasn't there, but
right.
Yachty and Wainwright, they're probably not going to be there anymore. Albert Pujols, folks, has a higher WAR this season than Jason Hayward at 42 years old.
An aging core.
10 years older than him.
An aging core of Wainwright
That's
and
probably
Molina.
my favorite stat this year so far.
But aging core of Wainwright and Molina.
Yep.
Still playing.
Still producing.
And he
on a playoff team
is not going to be on the team anymore this year. I just don't understand the move by the Cubs to even put that out. But I also don't get the Cubs fans vitriol towards him either. I have a lot of Cubs friends, and all they ever said was, "Just win us one, and we'll love you forever." Anyone will love you. That's all I want.
Hate him because he's the only one left.
Yeah, but you're one in my lifetime, right? Just win one in my lifetime, and I'll be happy. And they kicked out Madden, and people hated him down the line. Like, there should be a statue of Madden out there.
Oh,
there should be a statue of Jason Hayward in the speech that he gave in a plaque below it because of what happened. And then now they're all shoved away, and then they think that they're worth something. The Cubs may never win another one for another 100 years because players see this stuff and they don't want to go there and unless it's for the money.
Yeah. I mean, the Cubs, I don't know what they're doing right now. They didn't trade Contreras and Ian Happ either. I mean, like, what do you?
couldn't
I mean,
understand-
Happ, you've got another year.
Yeah.
Maybe
Contreras, I didn't understand.
doesn't make sense. I mean, unless you're gonna give him a bunch of money and re-sign him this offseason, if he wants to be there, I don't know why he'd want to be there.
He said he does want to be there, but he said that during the season, not obviously with any money in front of him. So let me ask you this. Okay, we're gonna just keep on going. Let me ask you this. So we talked about Yachty, and
it's an off day, man.
Yeah,
it's only 9:30 Central Time.
Yeah.
What else have we got to do?
No kidding.
What are we watching right now?
I give. I think I have the Padres game I pulled up on there. I just showed Paulie up there.
Padres and Giants just started in the third.
Yeah, so I pulled that up. They're 1-4 since Soto arrived. By the way,
we have a better record than them now.
Yeah. Well,
I think like half a game
by half a game, or yes. But what was I saying? Oh, Yachty. So we talked about Yachty and Gallegos and what that conversation was, and there's no leadership at the catcher position for next year. And people will say, "Well, worry about next year and next year." Do the Cardinals and do fans really consider Wilson Contreras?
Listen, okay, I thought about this more because I had people saying the Cardinals should trade for him. I'm like,
not trade. I would never.
That was
trade.
never going to happen.
Yeah.
Just like Tyler Malley was never going to happen.
Yeah,
or
too much.
Luis Castillo. Yeah, it wasn't, and it's in division. They were never going to do that.
Yeah.
Now, if you really think that Herrera's not ready,
which he hasn't gotten a lot of run.
He hasn't gotten run yet.
Like I think 18 games, which is not much.
No, it's not.
Because he
they even signed Romine instead of giving him more of a chance.
Romine's starting for the Reds now. By the way, I saw him throw out a guy.
He scored a game. Go ahead, run the other night
against
the Brewers
out at third.
I
saw him throw Yelich out at third, and Yelich was safe, and they reviewed it, and still was safe, or still was out. But yeah, so
look, my thing is if Kisner's clearly not the guy. I mean, he's gotten a lot of run this year.
Yes.
He's had some.
His most opportunities he's ever going to get.
He's very improved defensively. I would give him that. Doesn't frame great. Not hitting.
No.
And clearly cannot have the type of leadership to do what Yachty did with Gallegos. He can't come out and say something like that. Now, Wilson Contreras, I will say, I would not hate if we sign him. In fact, I would say he might be the better former Cub in the last 10 years that we should go out and sign.
Yeah.
So if we went and signed him to a 3 or 4 year deal, I would love that a whole lot more than when we signed Dexter Fowler to a 5-year deal. I was saying that at the time
after
of
the fact or before you did that before. He was the best free agent.
I was still blogging then. You can go back. I was not for that trade for that signing well before they did it.
Because I think he was the best available.
Yes.
At that time. But the Cardinals were still making bad decisions because of Oscar Tavares at the time.
Yeah, and it's tough. You're reeling from that. You're trying to get somebody. But Contreras, man, I mean, he's not terrible defensively.
Let me ask you, what's the biggest hole of the Cardinals in theory as we look at it next year?
It's catcher.
Like, because are we saying that
falls off again?
That's my question. Are we saying that as DeYoung in the last 7 days? Or are we saying that in DeYoung going forward? We don't know where he is.
you see where he's at. I think you see how it goes the rest of this season with DeYoung. I think best case scenario is you're starting shortstop next year and gives you one more good year or like average or can hit for power. And then I think the hope is that Mason Wynn's your starting shortstop in 2024. I think that would be the hope.
Is his run there?
I mean, if he's on track with Walker, Walker's probably a year ahead of him.
I would assume, right?
He's got more leeway now with Bader gone, but Mason Wynn, if he keeps on the track that he is, there's no reason he can't be your starting shortstop in 2024.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw Ryan Scholl, and he's a good follow. _Ryan_Scholl.
Yes,
he's the most optimistic Cardinals fan on Twitter, and he's
trying to will it. I love Ryan. We have good conversations. Yeah. He's always trying to will the most. The Soto or whatever situation into being.
And
Trey Turner, I saw today.
Yes, so we need to get him on the show. I don't know the guy. We should get him on the show sometime.
He's a good guy.
He says this offseason it's Trey Turner sliding into home, and I just tweeted back at him and I said, "Do you just enjoy pain? This is never happening. Like the Cardinals are never going to sign Trey Turner or some big.
I would love it if we did.
Sure, you would love it, but that's kind of like what Dan Buffalo was saying earlier. The Cardinals, when they're close, they never push it over the edge and get that next guy.
Always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
They never push it over one more spot. Like we need one spot. Let's hammer that down and really take over this division or the league or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think I would have to agree that the biggest hole, you could say right field as well because that's the weakest point, but obviously Newt is playing well. You have Alec Burleson that's ready
Walker
to go. You have Walker projecting end of next season probably.
You had Danny Mac thinking that, or no, Mo, or even who was it? Mo or somebody was even saying that. I mean, I think it was Katie Wu actually. She was saying like there's like a legit chance that Jordan Walker's a non-invitee
next year.
to spring training.
Yeah.
And like Jordan Hicks did at 20 years old, just impresses so much that you can't not break camp with him.
Right.
Now, I think a lot of factors would have to play in that. I think you'd have to see Newt Barr fall off a cliff,
Right.
and him just really struggle.
Because you got to get enough at bats.
Right.
Because you don't want to. You're not going to call up someone that young, and he's the
Right.
fourth outfielder.
Yes, and if Newt Barr falls off, well, then it should be Alec Burleson getting
Right.
the next shot. And
Because
if you're not going to give him a shot, then you need to trade him. You need to
Alec
use him this
Burleson
offseason to trade.
leads AAA in batting average.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yes.
And if you're not going to call him up, we need to trade him for pitching this offseason in
Right.
some form or fashion for a starter.
Or sign a guy on free agency.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be crazy?
Yeah.
For
Now,
pitching.
I could see us signing Contreras well before I could Trey Turner.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't know the numbers and the cost that Contreras was offered from the
Yeah.
Cubs. That's probably out there, what he was offered by
I'm
the
not sure.
Cubs. I don't know any of those numbers, but I think my point of this whole roundabout way of getting here was that is the biggest hole of leadership that is so important. I don't think that people really understood what that really meant to the Cardinals. And when Yachty came back, and we could say because Mo made good moves, or we say because Yachty is back in the clubhouse and is there and taking control of the pitching staff from starters to relievers,
Right.
all the way through. And no one is going to talk to Gallegos like that. That's on the staff, on the catcher staff now. That's not going to happen. And no one probably can either.
Contreras might not be able to step right in and do that,
but he has respect
he and Yachty
right now already because of they
and
know
Yachty
who
are good
he
friends.
is.
I mean, you can tell that they have a lot of respect for each other. I mean, Contreras, every time he sees Yachty, they come up and they're talking, they're
Right.
hugging. Did they both play on Team Puerto Rico
I
together?
do believe, and Javi. I did Javi. Javi was Baez
Yep.
was on there as well. But
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's random news, by the way, too. We're going to see Goldie and Arenado in the World Baseball Classic this spring.
yes,
That'll be fun. March, right? I
and
think.
it's in the United States. Thank goodness for both.
Yeah.
We're the host country this year, so
Yeah.
there's no traveling that has to be done.
That'll be cool.
Yeah. So and I thought it was interesting. Jock Peterson.
I haven't seen any more of USA. I don't know.
Was it Harrison Bader and Jock
No,
Peterson?
Bader's
That's what I'm
playing.
asking.
Bader's playing for
Israel.
Israel this year.
So
yeah.
is Jock Peterson.
Oh,
Jock
okay.
Peterson
I
and
didn't
Harrison
realize. Okay.
and Harrison Bader are both Jewish, apparently.
Yeah.
And anyone that is Jewish can play for Israel.
Stroman, I saw, is playing, I think, for Puerto Rico this year, but he was on Team USA last time.
Yeah, I saw
his
that.
mom's Puerto Rican.
Yeah, I saw that. They said, yeah, because you wouldn't make the team, is what people were saying. You wouldn't make the United States team.
He's been a lot better this last half. I mean,
since he was on the IL, and after he came off the IL, he's pitched much better.
After we rocked him.
I was kind of surprised they didn't trade him either, because remember, he has a big.
Did he have a no trade?
That
he might have a no trade.
He might, but he has a big contract next year.
Yeah.
He's only on a 2-year deal, and it's a big contract next year. So they could be dumped. They could have dumped that, and they could still dump it in the offseason because the Cubs are still not going to be contending next year either.
Yeah.
So, I enjoy the downfall of the Cubs, and I hope it keeps on coming, to be honest.
I heard something, it might have been on BK today, and we can end with this if you want, but we were talking earlier about how great Arenado's been, and it's been a month and a half now or so. I mean, he had that rough May after winning April Player of the Month.
Yes.
Or was it June? Maybe he had a rough June.
Whatever
it was.
Yeah.
He won Player of the Month.
Whatever Goldie won Player of the Month,
Arenado
was bad. Month. Yeah.
But since then, I mean, just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Man, unbelievable. And the power's been a little lower. He should still get 30-plus home runs. I mean, he's at 22 right now. He should still get 30-plus.
He should. And
do you think this is a season, and it reminds me a little bit of when Wainwright should have won the Cy Young. I think it was 2012 or 13. It had to have been 12 because Wainwright was hurt in 13. He and Chris Carpenter split votes.
Sure.
Actually, that might have been 2009 or 2010. They split Cy Young votes, and Tim Lincecum won, if you remember, and he shouldn't have won. It should have been either Wainwright or Chris Carpenter, but they split votes. Do you think we see Arenado and Goldschmidt split votes this year?
Well, it takes back to MV3.
Yeah.
One of those guys should have won the MVP.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that Arenado has to.
Austin Riley's probably had a little bit better season offensively, I think, at this point, especially power-wise, than Arenado.
Arenado would have to do a lot more, I think. I think Arenado's probably fifth-ish in the MVP race right now. Because I saw odds the other day.
But leading
baseball
in offensive WAR now.
Yeah. But
It's just barely above Goldschmidt, 1/10 of a point.
and but I saw yesterday the MVP odds and the MVP voting. And it's like they polled writers and stuff, and Paul Goldschmidt got like 27 of the votes, 1 vote here, 1 vote there for Betts and Riley. Like it was and Nolan's not even on that list. So I think he would have to do a lot more to be able to start taking votes away from him. Because 30 and 100 is what Arenado did last year. The difference in his game this year is his average.
Well, what did we talk about last year?
That's-
That it was. Well, there was several things we were worried about. We talked about, man, he only hit 255.
Yeah.
His OBP was 312.
Right.
He's at 347 on base percentage. He didn't even slug 500.
Yeah.
He was at 494. Like, what are we seeing? And I told you, I said, Goldschmidt had a rough first year for him. Goldschmidt hit like 260 his first year with us.
I can't remember where I heard it. They talked about, even though home runs fly like crazy in Colorado, the park is huge.
Yeah.
And so the alleys are ginormous.
Yes.
And so you hit for better average there, even though guys still hit home runs, but the park is very large.
Yeah.
So the alleys are huge and you hit for better average. So that was when people said, can Arenado hit outside of Colorado? They're not really talking about home runs. They're talking about
general.
Yeah, they're talking about average. And that was the biggest worry, as him last year hit 255.
Yeah.
And you had,
and he said it's going to be better.
It's going to
And
be
he
better.
said, no, it wasn't enough.
And he's still going to hit 30 and 100, which you look back, that's should be where we expect him and what Albert did for 11 years in St. Louis. But
Albert was, 40,
right,
3, 4, 5 years in a row, 40 plus.
And I think Arenado hit 40 plus a couple times in Colorado. That's where you expect Paul Goldschmidt to be, obviously, where he is at 26 home runs and he's at 88-ish RBI.
Yep.
He's going to hit over 30 and 100. Arenado should hit over 30 and 100. It's going to be the on base. It's going to be the batting average that moves it up. I think that Arenado has changed his swing of some sort. The launch angles, I would say out of the last 10,
he hits the ball so high.
But he didn't used to.
No.
He had a very line drive, Holiday line drive, Coors Field alley hits, right? In the last 10 home runs, I don't know this to be a fact, but I know the last 4 for sure have been all over 35 degrees. Okay. The average home run is in the high 20s, 27, 28, 29 degree launch angle.
He's 35, 36,
36,
37.
39 was one of them.
The one he hit yesterday and I was there, man, was
32. It was only 32, I think, is what
it looked high.
Yeah. But this still was above average, I would say, of home run, because Paul Goldschmidt hit one in Cincinnati when I went, and I said it was the highest home run I'd ever seen. And he hit it a long way, but it was off the bat super, super high, and it was 39 degrees. And it was just like, wow.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know if he's changed something because he's like, okay, I know how to hit in this ballpark now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what it is in the last.
He's been going the other way on 2 strikes more, too.
Yeah.
Though. We've seen that. We saw that Saturday. That base hit he had for the single, I think it might have been up the middle or toward right field. Batting 301 now.
Yes.
370 on base percentage.
And he doesn't walk a lot. He doesn't.
Doesn't walk a ton, but he's not striking out this year.
Right.
Now we've said that before. He can be aggressive first pitch sometimes, which I like, but it can result in a lot of pop-ups.
He loves to pop up.
And I'm okay with that if you're looking for that fastball. Only 55 strikeouts this season, man.
How many walks?
Goldie's got 93 Ks.
Yeah.
Now, like you said, only 39 walks for Arenado, but 370 on base percentage, 551 slugging, and a 920 OPS.
Because he should
920 OPS.
And because I think Paul Goldschmidt's walks are pretty high.
Goldie's got 54 walks.
So that's about where I think that Arenado should be. But if you think about that, if he's only struck out 50-ish times,
which he could get close to that by the end of the year.
If he strikes out 50-ish times and walks 50-ish times, that's like elite.
Yeah.
Because you don't have guys that strike out less than you walk.
Yeah.
Juan Soto is one of the guys that does that.
Right.
But because he walks so much.
Right.
But like that's like what you're nowadays where everyone strikes out a ton. That is like an unbelievable stat to be able to get there.
I mean, we're getting 2018 Nolan Arenado, actually a little bit better than 2018 Nolan Arenado right now. And that year he hit 38 home runs, 110 RBIs, 297 batting average, 374 OBP, 561 slugging, 935 OPS, which is almost very close where he's at right now. Finished 3rd in MVP that year. And I mean, he's at a 161 OPS plus right now.
And which is insane.
His highest ever in a season was 133 in 2018. He's at 161. Goldschmidt's at 191.
Wow.
191. Goldschmidt.
And the average is 100. Isn't that right?
Yes,
The league average is 100.
He's leading. Goldschmidt is leading the NL in batting average, on base percentage, slugging, OPS, and OPS plus.
And he's top 4 in home runs and RBI.
Yeah.
And,
I mean,
Arenado's not too far behind him as well in those categories.
I mean, we are and they're both doing it at the same time
and
right
they're
now,
both-
which is so fun.
And they're both probably having career years.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
Arenado's
absolutely.
not hitting as many home runs as he has at
That's
different
the
times.
only thing with him. Is
yeah.
And he seems like he could be close to having one of those streaks where 'cause
Yeah.
he did it last year, like 4 or 5 games in a row.
Yeah.
We saw him hit for the cycle last month.
Right.
I mean, he's been everything you could ask for this year.
This
I
year
think.
is what you expected
what I
out of
hoped
him
last
last
year.
year. And I
Yeah.
think this year is what you expected out of Paul Goldschmidt the previous 4 years.
Yeah, this will be in it. God help us. I don't want to jinx him. We're gonna knock on wood. No injuries. This will be the first season in 4th year now with
I
Goldschmidt.
do believe.
No, this is 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 4th season that he would eclipse 100 RBIs for us. 97 his first year. COVID season.
Didn't he hit
We'll skip that.
99 last year?
99
Yeah, I
last
thought
year.
so, yeah.
He didn't play that last game against the Cubs.
Yeah.
Probably would have got it. I mean, you never know, but
Yeah. Yeah. And to
streak was over and they
to
sat
have
him.
2 dudes 30 and 100
Oh.
is
We
major.
haven't had it since
No.
the MVP or
Right.
the MV3. We haven't had it. So they've been fantastic. If we can just get O'Neill healthy, get him going, if DeYoung can be just, what he's been now, I really think the X factor of this team going in the playoffs, and I know you're going to laugh at me when I say it, is Jack coming back. And I say that because
Well,
Hudson's been so bad.
X
70% of Jack would be better than Hudson as your 5th.
I don't disagree. I think the difference is you can't depend on him.
No, you
but
can't.
He is
expect.
the X factor of what as the ceiling for the team.
Right.
Like if Jack is anything close to what he should be, which Katie Wu reported again today, was about
He threw a bullpen today.
but it's all about mechanics were off.
Yes.
He was still hurt. His mechanics were off, and he was overthrowing and going through his mechanics. And his is repeatable. She was talking about how repeatable and repetitive he is,
right.
and that he was getting out of that. So if Jack can be anywhere close to what he was, that's the ceiling of the Cardinals. Because if you slide him in as a 1, 2, or 3 starter, and then you got Waino, Michaelis, or Quintana, or Montgomery, because I don't know where Quintana and Montgomery land as 3-4s.
Let me throw this scenario out here to you. Jack threw a bullpen today. I don't know how that went. I haven't seen any reporting on it yet. But they're hoping he'll be on a rehab assignment by the end of this month, in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Let's say he comes back and starts first week of September. And he gets, how many starts should you get in a month? 3 or 4 or 5? Something like that.
3-ish. I mean, it depends on how many games if you're playing every day. So in theory, there's 5 games a week. So you should rotate. You should get
at least 4 or 5.
4, yeah.
Let's say he gets 4 starts and he's looking really good. Do you think he starts in that first series in the wild card over Montgomery or Quintana? If it goes to a game 3.
You're talking about first start or third?
The first series.
Third, because
if it goes to a game 3. Because
Right.
obviously Waino and Michaelis would be your first 2.
I think it's way too soon to say what Montgomery and Quintana are doing.
Right.
Right.
I would want to know what they've done the rest of this time too, the 2 months. But,
Okay, let's just make it more difficult. Let's say Quintana and Montgomery have gone undefeated
Right.
from now to then. And Jack came in and went undefeated in his 4 or 5 starts. What happens at that point?
I would not want to be Marmol for that decision.
I think Jack Flaherty is your best of those 3 at their ceilings, at their top. So
Montgomery has the most playoff experience, I think. I mean, Jack's got a little bit. He had it against the Braves.
So you know what I say? You have Jack Flaherty start. You got Montgomery and Quintana ready to go in the bullpen.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna
David Price kind of
you
like when he
piggyback
did
it
with
ready
Boston.
to go.
Yeah.
Whatever needs to go. And you know what? I cannot wait to see David Montgomery. David, is that right?
Or Jordan Montgomery.
Jordan Montgomery with a beard. He said he's growing a beard. He can't.
Yes.
He's
Says
white.
fiance likes it.
Fiance likes the beard, and those Yankees wouldn't let him wear it, so he's growing out his beard.
There you go.
And so hopefully that beard gets him going, and he can now make it through the heat of St. Louis.
It's looking good, man. I hope we can keep it going. I would love to see a double-digit win streak. It would go a long way this week in helping bury the Brewers.
That would be, and then we have the Brewers very soon
This
as well.
weekend, yeah.
Yeah, so you have to have a double digit and then beat them as well. Next off day, do you know?
Next Monday, I think.
A week from today.
Yeah,
So
we'll be back on here another week.
We'll plan on
come hang out for another nearly 2 hours with
See,
us.
we were done at 118. Do you remember we were done at 118 and then we just kept going. So yeah, we should be back on a week from today. on next Monday on the next night off. I don't know if we'll have any guests because we just burned through 3 of them tonight, which was a lot of fun. Appreciate to Kyle Peach for jumping on. Appreciate Dan Buffa for jumping on, and Brandon Gauden.
Yeah.
All 3 of them for giving us some time, 20 minutes each-ish. Appreciate that. Follow us at That's a Winner Podcast, and keep following our tweets. Fan is growing. We have more and more followers. We have more and more listens every single week, so we appreciate it. And
sorry to those of you who did not get a Juan Soto jersey.
Oh man, I feel really good. We need to do something. I don't know. I mean, I have some memorabilia in here I could just give away. I don't know. Is there anything you see that you want? I could put that out there.
We can start doing predictions maybe for when Jordan Walker gets called up. We'll do a Jordan Walker jersey.
Yeah,
giveaway.
I'm going to Scott Rowland signing in a couple weeks.
Nice.
I don't know anything I'd be willing to part with, to be honest.
Definitely not the Gorman bat and ball.
It's
you
right
just
there.
got. Yeah.
That's over. Those are over there. The Gorman bat and the ball. There's some Mark McGwire plates from his.
Oh, nice.
Hit from his home
vintage.
Vintage from 13, 40, 60. And I can't see what number it was on that one. But I have all kinds of stuff. We could just start giving it away. Whatever.
Auction it off.
Yeah. I want to give something away. So more you listen, the more money we actually make, because we do make money on on the actual podcast through Spotify. If you're listening through Spotify or Apple Podcasts or any of those, that does help us. And then if we can load up a bunch of money, then I can buy something to be able to give away. How about
there
that?
You go.
Keep on sharing.
It'll just come right back to you guys.
Yeah, keep on sharing the podcast and with people, and we'll keep on trying to put out as much good stuff as we can. We appreciate you listening, and we'll look forward to talking to you next week. Thanks.
Sutter from the belt to the plate. A swing and a miss, and that's a winner. That's a winner. A World Series winner for the Cardinals. Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. It's a home run, and the Cardinals have won the game by the score of 3-2 on a home run by the Wizard. Go crazy. Swinging a long one into left field. Adios, goodbye, and maybe that's the winner. A 3-run homer by Clark, and the Cardinals lead by the score of 7-5, and they may go to a World Series on that one, folks.
What a team! What a ride! The Cardinals are world champs in 2011.